Hi, this is Mike Essen, South Florida's conservative voice. I want to talk to you today about many issues, including someone who's a major supporter, major guest is coming on the show on the 27th. It'll be tape delayed a week, but it'll be right before the primary. I'm endorsing Paul Renner for governor of Florida. I will tell you why him and why not the other three candidates in the primary. I think it's very, very important. Paul Renner has bipartisanly worked across the aisle. He passed the heartbeat bill. He passed pro-Second Amendment laws. He passed Everglades wildlife restoration. He passed lawsuit abuse reform. He is a major. He was a great Speaker of the House when Chris Sproles, who was a very moderate Republican before, was afraid to touch any of these issues. Now, I'm not here, and he's going to be on the show, and I can't wait for this to happen. Now, touching on the other candidates, Byron Donalds is by far the front runner in the Florida gubernatorial election. The problem is with him is that he is for universal health care. We had Romney care, we had Obamacare. They were out and out disasters. We don't need Donald's care. He is pro AI instead of pro worker. He was for amnesty, and his refusal to answer questions like, "Are you for the heartbeat bill?" Say yes, Byron. Are you against legalizing marijuana? Say yes, Byron. He is not saying yes to these issues. And James Fishback is a blatant anti-Semite who is anti-Israel. He should drop out. Jay Collins is a good guy. I respect his intentions. But there's one thing about him that's very dangerous. It's a deal-breaking issue for me, which has to do with the fact that he said he would not support hate speech on the internet. Let me make this very clear. I think hate speech is stupid. I think bigots are evil. I think Klansmen, Nazis, communists are all evil. But they have just as right to speak as you or I do. Once you break First Amendment applies to people who you do and don't like. As Voltaire once said, "I hate what they say, but I'll fight for the right to say it." And the thing is that we have a Democrat named David Jolly running, who will most likely be the nominee. He is pro-abortion. He is against Second Amendment. He's for raising your taxes. Basically takes a straight progressive line. And I think Paul Renner in a debate would crush him. I think Byron Donalds is too weak in a debate, which shows he's not showing up, which I think is not only cowardly, it's unprofessional. I will support Donalds over Jolly in a heartbeat, but he's not the right candidate. I do want to talk about something that is on that a lot of conservatives, including our beloved governor, I love Ron DeSantis. But if I had to pick one issue he's wrong about, a lot of conservatives like Mark Levin, Rick Santorum, Sean Hannity are for this as a convention of states. It is a horrendously bad idea. The convention of states would allow for as a constitutional convention would redo the Constitution, which has worked so well over the years. And if the left gets in control, which they very well could, they will have a lot of say over it, especially with the Republicans not fighting as hard as they could in the Congress. You would see nationalized elections, gender ideology, Green New Deal policies, abortion on demand. And I'm just scratching the surface. And you know who said this? The Kings Point Democratic National Committee Club. It is a completely horrible idea. Two groups that I applaud, my hat is off, my yarmulke is off to them, is Eagle Forum, which the late great Phyllis Schlafly started, who single-handedly defeated the horrid Equal Rights Amendments, and the John Birch Society, which a group I've spoken for several times. And I don't think this is going to pass. Thank God it won't. And who's to say it wouldn't get rewritten, but the Constitution is something you don't play with, my friends. It's completely sacred to our freedom. That's why, as I mentioned previously, Jay Collins is a very bad candidate. You cannot restrict free speech. Once you restrict one group's right to speak, they're all going to be restricted. It's a very slippery slope. I was on Twitter the other day participating, schmoozing, bruising. And they were saying this. I hate to show the View, by the way, to preface that. We all know what it is. It doesn't need introduction. I'm not going to promote it if it does. And they say, should the View be canceled? I said no. I think it's a horrible show. I hate it, actually. But I love my Constitution and free speech more. They have a right to be stupid. I have a right not to be stupid. Free speech should have the only, I mean, and I don't like people too often use the fire in the crowded theater example. I mean, that's true. You don't, Oliver Wendell Holmes, the Supreme Court justice, said, you don't scream fire in a crowded theater. But that has become the biggest excuse not to restrict free speech. They use that with everything. What the left does. This I'll tell you what predicated this was these stupid hate crimes laws. I hate hate crimes, but it's so broadly defined that it's anything conservative. They use it to restrict speech. And speaking of that, I want to talk about the latest victim of cancel culture. I hate cancel culture. It is completely communistic and anti-American. It's fascist. It's commie-fascist. It's horrible. Because both communists and fascists use that. And we're in the Democrat Party, which is communist. It is. Come on, defund the police, Green New Deal. They're using that as a weapon. And the communists do this too. They use tactics like this is hate speech. This speech is dangerous. And Carrie Underwood, the singer who needs no introduction, put American flags on the front of her lawn. This was absolutely, and that was patriotic of her, and she is banned from any platforms for that. This makes the hairs on my head stand up. They're standing. Do you see that? First of all, you should be proud and salute the American flag. That's the flag that is a symbol of freedom, a symbol of hope, which people from across the states and countries and nations go to free states, countries, and nations that don't consider California as free as Florida. And people fought to protect the values of that flag. We cannot take away its wonderful and important purposes. But this is not the first time. I remember when Kirk Cameron spoke out against same-sex marriage. I did in a previous show. Obergefell hopefully will be overturned, which legalizes that 50 states and overruled the will of the people. Said that gay marriage should be outlawed, shouldn't be allowed. And people were saying these words: he should keep his views to himself, cancel him. There was a group called Young Actors Against Him. If you don't like Kirk Cameron, don't watch his shows. You can speak out in protest. You can invite him on your program and debate him. Canceling people who disagree with you is terrible. I've debated liberals on my show previously about big tech censorship. Their argument always is, it's private companies. And there's a flaw with that logic. You're open to the public. If they don't charge you, and it's your platform, and you are not paying for it, you have just as right to free speech as if you were speaking in the corner. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. And our beloved senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley, has done a lot of great stuff in this issue. I love Senator Hawley. He's one of the true patriots, one of the few fighters in the Congress. I'm going to give you a little shameless plug, by the way. I'm very proud as one of the few Jewish pro-lifers in the country. There's not enough of them. There should be more. I'm going to go on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly on Tuesday to discuss the Jewish case for life. I was on Jerry Newcomb's show, Vocal Point, about this. And I'm not going to make it now because I want you to see it, but I'll be talking about this more in the future. I will call out the Republicans if it is crucially support them in the midterms. They're by far the party to join. But I will call them out when they do something wrong. They did nothing to defund Planned Parenthood a dime. July 4th, the birth of our freedom, the birth of our country, the 250th anniversary. Planned Parenthood is a butchers unborn children, grooms children, does gender reassignment surgeries on kids. They lie to women. They throw away babies in the toilet. And this is a party that has the majority of the Congress, and they did nothing about this. As we say in the Yiddish, that is a shanda in the party. Now, the Democrat Party is so extreme in abortion, it scares me. No exceptions. They're if something's illegal, they'll make sure women get chemical abortions in that state. They're by far worse on the issue. I'm not saying don't vote for conservatives, Republicans. I am a conservative first and Republican second. But they had a chance and they blew it. I'm very disappointed. I'm very upset about it, actually. Donald Trump and abortion. If you're wondering where he stands, I think there's two Donald Trumps in this issue. Trump 45 was great in the pro-life issue. 47, I can't say I'm happy about what he's not doing. 45, he appointed the three justices, Kavanaugh, Barrett, and Gorsuch, who helped overturn Roe versus Wade. He reversed the Mexico City policy, and those two things are great. And he spoke for the March for Life. But at this time, he has stated he wants to be done with the issue. Mr. President, please, you are dead wrong about this. It is a federal issue. You at any time can use DOJ to stop the chemical abortion pills. That's why Marjorie Janice Felser, Christian Hawkins, and especially Lila Rose, pro-life activist, was very critical of him for this. And he doesn't want to defund Planned Parenthood. Defunding it for a year is a step of a pygmy. Defunding it permanently, like I want to do, like pro-life for sure as heck want to do, is a step of a giant. Giants, pardon the pun, trump pygmies any day. The midterms are so crucial. I'm not as hopeful and optimistic as I'd like because, look, I can't predict whether we had a guest on. I encourage you to listen to the show with Mike Velarde about gas prices. I hope they go down a lot, enough in time, but I'm scared that people aren't. I don't have the faith in the American people or gas prices or the economy at this point to think that Republicans will win the midterms. We have a president who's a Republican. He can veto their legislation. There could be gridlock. I think there will be. They'll try to impeach him, but we'll see if they have the votes. I don't think they will. And then you get Vance for 3 terms. Possibly if he wins for re-election or whatever. But if the Republicans win, I will do a backflip on this show. If they don't, I will have to suck it up. I'm not going to leave the country no matter what. I hate people say I'll leave the country if I don't get my way. It's your country. You have right to live here as much as anybody else does. Whoever's the president is your president too. But a lot's at stake. They will try to codify Roe and the big two things. They'll try to codify Roe versus Wade. Won't happen. Thank God for the filibuster. Thank you, Joe Manchin. And they will try to impeach President Trump, which it'll tie up the country to a very large extent. I hope. I'm not giving you ideas. There's no government shutdowns. That is an infantile at best and sick and destructive way to run our countries, to shut down governments because you don't get your way. In life, I don't get my way in everything. I don't jump like, rah, 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 give me my way. No, I'm a mature adult. That's what they're doing when they shut down the government. It's sick. I always wondered something. I was scratching my head the other day. You hear a lot about celebrities' opinions. I mentioned Carrie Underwood. And on the flip side, you may have heard that Olivia Rodrigo, the singer, is going to do a benefit for Planned Parenthood. You hear stars saying they're going to leave the country, but I have a very simple question. Who cares what stars think about anything? What makes you an expert, because you have an acting or sports talent, that you know about war and peace, the economy, social issues? I wish there was a written rule. I can't restrict free speech, but people are stupid to care. Like that, they should shut their mouths about this. I shut mine. I control myself. I'm going to tell you something. Tom Hanks or Robert De Niro, or even a conservative one like Charlton Heston, late Charlton Heston when he was alive, has no more of importance than Steve Smith, William Andrews, and Sue Williams. Those are your average Sues, Williams, and Steves. Tom, Dick, and Harry is the old expression. I love giving my views on the air like this. I'd love to be back. Yippee-ki-yay. I won't say the last word. I, however, want us to take a different opinion than many of my conservative brethren, these Hollywood stars. I don't boycott their movies or think it hurts to see them. I don't think shutting down an industry or working to shut down. I'm a huge movie buff, so you probably figured it out. It gives people joy who aren't political, who are young, who are old. To try to shut down Hollywood would be a big mistake. And just because you don't agree with someone's politics doesn't mean they're bad people. I have many liberal friends. We have different ways of solving the country. I think I'm right and they're wrong. They think I'm wrong and they're right. My name is Mike Essen, not Jehovah, not God. I have strong opinions, but they're not facts just because I have them. But I take but we've talked about issues regarding the Constitution, like cancel culture and the Convention of States. I am a constitutional conservative and strict constructionist and very proud of that. We have to adhere to that. I'm not saying it can't be changed. We repealed prohibition. That's the only amendment that's been repealed. Like, I'm going to criticize some of my conservative friends and brethren who want, it's not many of them, want Trump to run for a third term. If you want that, you have to work to repeal 22nd Amendments, which I think is a bad idea. And also, that will be used against you. Let's say Gavin Newsom serves 4 terms. He's young, God forbid. The evil, child abusing, state sanctioned groomer. But regardless, it's unconstitutional, so we have to abide by it. It's like when someone's up for the Supreme Court, if they were to say in the nominating process, I want to protect human life, innocent human life from the womb without being appropriate. You say, I swear to adhere to the Constitution of the United States and interpret it to my ability. That's what strict constructionist is. Activist judges rule by their will, and that is very dangerous. People who thought that there was a constitutional right to same-sex marriage or abortion are not reading the Constitution. Or to me, they don't care about it. The Constitution is silent on the pro-abortion side. It actually is pro-life, though, because the 14th Amendment applies to people, and the human life in the womb is they're human beings, can't be anything else. And there's nowhere where gays have a right to marry or same-sex couples in the Constitution. Nowhere. Obergefell was a terrible decision. I was glad Anthony Verdugo, my guest last week, said it could be overturned. I hope it is. And I want to encourage you not to look too far ahead to 2028. Please don't. Imagine if the baseball team was going to the semifinals and they were thinking, who am I going to play in the finals? You wouldn't do very well. We have midterms to fight for. We have midterms to really fight for. We have the economy's at stake, national security is at stake, and our culture is at stake. And we have to fight to keep those things free and keep those things safe and keep those things well. And I'm proud to do that as a voter and as a commentator and as a talk show host, as an American first. American first, conservative second, Republican third. And we have a lot of great shows coming up, by the way. Now, our next show is going to be Ralph Reed, the chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition. I'm having a sports debate coming up, by the way. I'm going to tell you what it is. I've been on the Fun Football podcast, talking about all-time great teams. Isaac Valenti's going to talk basketball with me. I think Larry Bird is the greatest small forward of all time. He thinks LeBron James. I think the Michael LeBron debate is a little exhausted, and I couldn't find somebody to do it. But I think Michael's the best player of all time, Michael Jordan. But we're having a sports debate. I like to light things up a bit. I'll have a movie show too eventually. We also have talk about sunshine laws with Alexandra Suarez. We have Rhonda Reben Lopez, head of the Keys GOP. It's absolutely exciting what's coming up. Please like and subscribe. Subscribe to the Mike Essen Show. Click like and Arrivederci.